As we like to do on the weekend is put our feet up and read a good book. So we often focus in on books, and today this is our focus. The book Fool's Gold is a Modjaji short story anthology produced to celebrate the publisher's over a decade-worth milestone in producing writing of Southern African women. The collection in this offering gives the reader a taste of debut literary works ranging from very different female writers, including the likes of Jolyn Phillips, Makhosazana Xaba, Bekker Thesen, Jayne Bauling, and the 2011 Caine Prize shortlistee Lauri Kubuitsile, among others. Having personally selected and edited the book, we have writer and poet Arja Salafranca. She joins us now in studio. Very good morning and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you.
An interesting name for the book, Fool's Gold, because fool's gold is that which is deceptive, makes people think that it's gold, when in actual fact it's quite worthless, but none of the writing in here is worthless.
No, absolutely not. The name actually came from one of the short stories. Colleen Higgs, the publisher, and I were looking around and to try and see what we could call it. And Fool's Gold is quite in your face, and as you say, it makes you think, what is this? What is this all about? And that's a very fine short story that she writes about a man, a very young man who has to just make his way in the world, and he cleans shoes, collects boxes, and you know, so it's a really powerful piece also.
It's also your own personal collection. How did you decide what stories make it into the book and those that were cut?
It was very difficult sometimes because I had to choose one story each from the 10 collections that Modjaji has published, and then it also comes from 2 other anthologies that Modjaji has published. And sometimes I loved 2 or 3 of the stories from the same collection, and obviously you couldn't choose. So what I did was I sat on the stories a bit, and whatever resonated and whatever stood out for me even a couple of months later, if I remembered a story, I knew, okay, that was definitely the one that had to go in. But a few did resonate for me, so eventually I just made it a selection.
Yeah. It's interesting with the collection of stories because each of them have their own themes and they're complete in their own right. But often with a collection, there's a general sense that you get afterwards. So what would you say the general sense of this collection of short stories is after somebody reads them?
I think the wide variety of stories that South African women are telling. And they range from light-hearted stories. There's a story about a woman who dies, and she's a ghost, so to speak, and she revisits her home, where she used to love to watch TV 24/7. So these new people, these new tenants come and they find the TV is on at all hours of the day. So that's a very funny kind of story. Then we have more serious social stories. One deals with AIDS. One deals with unemployment, as I say, the man in Fool's Gold. Another one deals with a woman who picks up army guys on the side of the road in order to find some kind of fulfillment and energy in her life, I suppose. There are stories about relationships. My story, for example, that I included is about relationships and when the cracks come in. And when the cracks come in, how quickly things can just dissolve, you know, if you don't look after them. And there's Lauri Kubuitsile's story about a man who was the stud of the village, let's call him, and the other men want to emulate him. So there is such a variety. There's serious, there's light-hearted, there's something for everybody. And there are issues and themes in South Africa that have been explored in these stories. Absent fathers, for example.
Yeah. Do you feel, because listening to what you have to say about the variety of different themes that come through and the different women that are featured, that if a foreigner had to pick up this book, they'd get a really good sense of what it's like to be a South African woman?
I hope so. I think they'd get a really good sense. And what also, anthologies also lead you to the writing. So they might like 2 or 3 of the stories, let's say, and then they would go out and find the collections that the stories were published in. So anthologies also lead you out of the actual stories themselves. But they would get a sense of absolutely everything that's happening, I think.
Modjaji Books prides itself in being an independent feminist press that publishes the work of Southern African women writers. This obviously is seen in the latest offering, Fool's Gold. And what is the vision moving forward?
I think Colleen Higgs, the publisher, would be better suited to say what the vision is. But certainly her vision has been to publish writing by South African women writers, to bring it out into the forefront. Because even today, writing is still quite predominated by men. And this gives women a voice, a push. It creates a platform that isn't always there for women writers of from the whole country itself. And so I think the vision would probably be to continue to do that, to push that agenda forward.
Yeah, it's certainly given you a platform. Tell us a little bit about the short story that's included.
My short story, The Thin Line. It's sort of an abstract short story, as I call it. Some of my short stories are focused on a particular couple and a particular thing that happens. But this is about different people, and it looks at both relationships and friendships, and how a word said can cause a crack and cause a difference and cause a friend perhaps to look at another friend in a different way. Or I also talk, in the same story, I talk about a couple who go to Malawi on holiday, and there's cracks appearing, and the cracks in the story, I talk about the toast being burned and how angry I think the woman or the man is. I can't quite remember right now, but that points to the deeper fissures that are going on within that relationship, and how to. I don't give an answer as to how to stop it. I was just trying to shine a light on when love becomes hate, and that's why it's a thin line, the thin line between love and hate. It's minute at times.
Sure, and don't we oscillate between the two so often in so many relationships? Thank you so much for coming into studio to chat to us about your short story, as well as this collection of fantastic short stories by South African female writers.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
A big thank you to writer and poet Arja Salafranca for joining us on our Sunday morning book feature. We were just in conversation about the short story anthology that she edited titled Fool's Gold.